Welcome to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered. With your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I'm the founder of Salesology, creator of the Salesology prospecting method, and I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. Today, my very special guest is Matt Gregory. He is the executive managing director of NAI Ohio Equities. And Matt's story is one of quiet transformation, shaping the brokerage division from within while never losing the drive to help clients. He's a strategist and a mentor. He co-founded the Office Brokerage Group. He launched the firm's first fast-track training program, and he has closed 1,200 plus deals worth more than $810 million. Clients value his mix of precision, urgency, and clear foresight, and colleagues value his commitment to developing future leaders. Having recently earned his broker's license, congratulations, Matt. He now serves as the NAI Ohio Equities as the official management level broker capacity, bringing even greater authority to the guidance that he provides. So welcome, Matt Gregory.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Look forward to this.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here. So let's get going and start right at the beginning, which is where I always start. You're currently the executive managing director at NAI Ohio Equities. What's the backstory? How'd you get involved in real estate in the first place?
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of an interesting story, and I always start off by telling people that usually, unless you grew up in a real estate family, most people don't grow up looking to get into real estate. Real estate usually finds you. And that's definitely what happened to me. I grew up with a computer background. I was always interested in everything there was to do with computers. And then as the internet was founded, started developing websites when I was in high school and then in college. And when I was a senior at The Ohio State University, I found an internship at Ohio Equities. They were looking for someone to help with their marketing department. And throughout the course of that summer internship, I quickly discovered that they needed help on the technology and network and website side of things. So I plugged myself right in, took it upon myself to help them. I call it transform from old school to new school as it relates to technology. This was right around the time that e-commerce was really getting big and people were starting to sell more through email marketing and through, PDFs had just been invented. So during that internship, I actually digitized every single marketing brochure that the company had, that they would have been printing out and either mailing to people or faxing to people, and made them PDFs so that they could email them or put them on their website. And I transitioned that internship into a full-time position after I graduated as the newly formed or created Director of Information Technology. And I did that for 4 years before eventually getting my real estate license.
Okay, well, that's really fascinating. What made you decide to transition from information technology to getting your real estate license and becoming a broker? That's a big leap.
It is. Yeah, I had never intended on being a salesperson or being, commissioned, salary. But what I will say is over those 4 years as Director of Information Technology, I learned that in commercial real estate, you're not just selling the real estate itself, you're really selling the opportunity to get the listing or get the tenant rep assignment. And all of the agents that were at Ohio Equities at the time started taking me on listing presentations with them to sell to our client how we were going to help sell their property or help sell their assignment. And the more listing opportunities I got to go on, I got that itch for sales. And so that was part of it. I got that foray. And then the second part of it is the owner of Ohio Equities at the time, Sandy Simpson, he came to me and said, "Hey, if you're able to sell me on technology, you can sell anyone anything. Have you ever thought about getting your real estate license?" So just those words of encouragement from Sandy, as well as the appetite I was starting to get from getting to go on listing presentations. I was like, "Hey, I can do this."
Very cool. Just FYI, Sandy was a client like 10 years ago.
Wow,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
But so I'm curious because sometimes I find I work with a lot of brokers, and I find sometimes brokers are very resistant to the word sell as part of their own personal description, salesperson, and yet you
sure.
seem to be embracing that. So, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's funny that I was using that word with you because I don't use that word all that often. We definitely use the word educate, advise, consult. I'm a teacher and a coach by trade. Well, I shouldn't say by trade. I just done that from a volunteer basis. But I really feel that when you educate your client, you provide them all the facts necessary to make an informed decision. You raise their confidence. You empower them, with all the tools to make the decision to achieve their results. So that's what selling really means to me. Do you have to, from time to time, tap into those traditional sales methods? Absolutely. But most of the time, it's really more of a consultative or education role.
Sure. And a number of years ago, I looked up the word sell in the dictionary, and the word sell, the definition is to persuade someone of the value of whatever it is you're doing. So I was always surprised when people are a little bit phobic about the word sell because the concept of value is inherent in the definition.
For sure. Yeah, no, I like the word persuade definitely hits home for me. I even get accused by my family sometimes of just talking in that vernacular, like I'm trying to inherently try to persuade them to share the same opinion as me, even though that's not my intent. But I guess sometimes it's just hard to turn it off after hours.
I guess so. So I know that you started the Fast Track program at Ohio Equities. And could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm always so curious about um, hiring brand new people and making them productive. So,
Sure.
how do you do that?
Yeah, happy to give the background on that. And I don't want to take all of the credit, especially even on the name Fast Track. In 2006, when I was licensed, Ohio Equities had actually hired two other agents at the same time. So that there were three of us. And one of our agents had his spouse recently retired, and she was looking to get into real estate training. And so Ohio Equities hired her to put us through the first ever Fast Track program back in 2006. And all three of us that participated in that are still at Ohio Equities here today. So it was clearly successful. And when I was hired or promoted as managing director back in 2023, Mike Simpson and myself, Mike Simpson's the new president and CEO of the company, second generation, Sandy's son. Um, we kind of looked at over the course of the last 20 years where we had success in hiring new agents. And we kind of looked at the industry as a whole and saw the same things that everyone else sees, which is there's a really high barrier to entry, first of all, to get into the business, and then a really high attrition rate that only about 1 out of 3 people seem to stick with the business. And the reason for that is there's not a lot of formal real estate training for new agents. There seems to be actually more for people that want to amplify their existing business once they have a foundation, but not a lot for brand new agents. And so we decided that we would relaunch this fast track program, reinvent it, so to speak, and with the goal, not only to recruit new agents, but to give them a good foundation for building for their career. We say we want to give somebody 3 years worth of training or 3 years worth of experience in their first year to get them to turn the corner faster, to hopefully building up that pipeline and tasting some success earlier so that they don't get to that, second and third year and they're sweating whether or not they're going to be able to make it or not in the business.
Okay. So, what are the elements that they they need the foundational elements that they need in order to get through this first year, three
Sure.
years worth of
Yeah.
experience in 1 year.
Yep. Yep.
How are you doing
So,
that?
yeah. So we break it into, so for their first 6 months, they're going to spend 3 90-minute sessions per week with me. The first one every week is more of a classroom style education. I actually taught intro to commercial real estate at a local community college here, and I put them through that same curriculum that I put my students through. Most people, when they get into commercial real estate, they've gone through their core real estate classes to get their license, but they learn relatively little about the commercial industry and no practical application. A lot of them have, they've listened to podcasts such as this, or they have a friend or a family member that maybe had a career in real estate or development, but they don't know the vocabulary and the definitions and the formulas. So we actually put them through classroom style training, which both teaches them about all the different industries within commercial real estate, or specialties rather, the differentiation between office and retail and industrial, multifamily, investment, that sort of thing. So that's the first 90-minute session every week. The second one focuses more on hands-on practical application of business development, cold calling, um, actually doing prospecting, doing broker opinion of values, mock presentations, mock cold calling. And then the third session every week is getting out and actually meeting an industry professional, whether that be an attorney, an architect, a developer, or contractor, an economic development person. It's not only helping them build their Rolodex or expanding their sphere of influence, but it's also helping them reinforce what I have taught them in the classroom setting, but out in the real world and hear it from, someone else's perspective. So we do that for 6 months. And then at the end of 6 months, we transition the 3 days a week into just 1 day a week. And that 1 day a week, we're talking as a group. I usually have 5 to 7 people in the fast track. We talk as a group about pipelines, what they maybe a success from the prior week, a learning situation from the prior week, and then what a goal is for the week ahead. And I want all of the agents to hear from their peers what other people are doing so we can celebrate those successes, learn from each other's mistakes, and also be motivated by what each other are doing. So we do that for 6 months. And then at the end of that first year, they've officially graduated. Now, during that entire year, they are still building their book of business. They're sitting out in the bullpen that we have here, and they're getting to hear all of the more experienced agents' conversations. We encourage them to sell internally, sell themselves, and tell the other agents they're willing to make cold calls for them, handle showings for them, get to go on listing presentations, kind of as an audition to team up on a case by case basis on different listings.
Okay, so it sounds like you want them at the end of the year to be fairly self-sufficient, but also having auditioned and landed on a team so they can continue to be supported.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, throughout that first year, I will work on maybe 3 to 5 transactions with each of them so they can learn from me from a mentorship standpoint. But I also want them to work on as many listings with other people in the office as possible to learn other styles, learn what the best thing everyone does, and maybe the worst thing everyone does, to learn what they should do and what they shouldn't be doing. But then, there's lots of different things. There's personalities. Some people click with other people more than others. Um, they might click with a different type of property type. So yeah. And at the end of the year, it's not a must that they have to be on a team. We definitely encourage teams, but there's also, we have a lot of agents that are solo teams, but team up with an individual on a case by case basis or on a listing by listing basis.
All right. So if the industry-wide attrition rate for somebody that's brand new is two-thirds of them are gone in 2 or 3 years, what is your attrition rate like?
So I'd love to say that that we have 100% retention, but that's, just impossible. Some people, if they just weren't cut out for it, or unfortunately, you have to have a good amount of savings because, the deal cycle is so long. And some people also get recruited either to work on a team somewhere else or to work in a salary role at a developer or a bank or, another industry that's related to commercial real estate. I've only started doing this in 2023, so it's probably too soon for me to give you that many statistics, but I am proud to say that of our first class, 5 of the 6 agents are still with us. So
Okay.
that's almost 3 years.
Okay. Go Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
So, so actually what I'd like to do is take a step back because you can have the best program in the world, but if you got the wrong people in it, they're probably not going to be that successful. So when you're thinking about recruiting people that you're going to then place in your fast track program, what do you look for?
Yeah, so we definitely look for people that, first of all, it's all about personality, right? They have to have high emotional intelligence. They have to be able to adapt their personality to whoever the client is. We want people that are confident, but not egotistical. We want people that are internally motivated. We want people that are going in eyes wide open. I wouldn't say that we scare them, but we try to really be as direct as we can about what the industry is going to, chew them up and spit them out, so to speak. We also want them to know just how long the pipeline cycle is, because a lot of people, I think, get into the business and think they're going to be making huge commissions within 3 months. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. I'd also say we're very fortunate here. We haven't had to spend a lot of time recruiting people. We have a very good brand locally, and people have called us probably more. I probably get about maybe one call a week from someone that wants to interview with our firm. So, if I'm only hiring 5 or 6 people every 2 to 3 years, I have a lot to sift through. A lot of it is about personality match, but we also want to find a variety of candidates. We don't want to hire people that are all in the same place in their career. So, I think in our last class, we had 2 people that were right out of college, 2 that maybe had 5 to 7 years in another profession, and then a couple more that were maybe halfway through their career in another type of sales, but that have relatable skills to commercial real estate.
Okay, so I'm curious when you're interviewing people, because you mentioned some of the things that you're looking for that you want people that are internally motivated and have a high emotional intelligence, and you kind of had a list. But how do you tell? I have a client that has said to me about some of his salespeople, the best sales job they ever did was convincing me to hire them.
Sure, sure.
So how do you screen? I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, I have to say a lot of it's based on the intuition of myself and of Mike Simpson, our president.
Mhm.
A big part of it too is a personal testimonial from for however they got connected with us. That means a lot. So it comes back to relationships. We've thought about over the years putting someone through like a disc assessment or some sort of personality testing, but we've steered away from that. I do know some of our peers have had some success with that. But it's mostly, I would just say, cultivating that relationship. We never hire somebody after the first half an hour or hour meeting with them. I would say it's over the course of 3 or 4 meetings, both in our conference room as well as off site. Just getting very conversational and talking through what the training's going to be like and seeing how fast they pick up some of the vernacular that we're using. We also have our COO here that has a background in human resources and is a good judge of talent, that we have them meet with. But yeah, I don't think there's any. We don't have. We have not yet developed a rubric or other type of screen that we might for a traditional employee. As we're hiring these 1099 independent contractors, it's really just based off of our intuition.
Okay, well, it seems to be working. Because you did tell me, I asked you about wins that you and your team have had, and you said one of your team members, shout out to Mitchell Moore, won Rookie of the Year. So
Yes,
I am assuming that Mitchell went through your fast track
he did.
program, and the result was that he won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. He did. And one of the things I like to say too, back to our teammate conversation, obviously we do want to develop people that are good teammates, but we also want to develop people that, have the ability to lead a team or, be future leaders and empower them to be independent and to work on their own listings and not just rely on someone else to produce for them, but to go out and build their own brand and build their own book of business. And Mitchell has definitely done that, as well as most of our fast track graduates.
Okay, that's really wonderful. So I have to ask you though, because one of the questions I asked you in preparation for this interview, my favorite question is, what drives you crazy about managing a sales team?
Yeah, I think the thing that drives me the most crazy is finding the right balance between them having autonomy and having the right amount of oversight. We want them to obviously ask us questions so they don't get too far off the path or, lead a client the wrong way. But we also don't want them using us as a crutch to ask for approval before giving every single piece of advice. So finding that right balance is one. And there's no one size fits all approach. You can give someone, some agents a lot longer leash than you can give others. Maybe, though, maybe more directly answering your question is the how each one of them communicate with you. Some are much better at copying you on emails or checking in with you periodically, whereas other ones, will kind of embrace their independence and not, keep you up to speed on something. And then all of a sudden you're scrambling to bring yourself up to speed so that you can give them advice when they run into a stumbling block.
Do they ask you? Do they come to you for advice, or you have to pinpoint the stumbling block from being CC'd on the emails?
I would say most of them are pretty good about knowing when they hit a stumbling block and when to come reach me. It's very, very few and far between that I have to identify a problem before they have.
Okay. Well, this has been such a great conversation. If people want to connect with you, Matt, where can they find you?
Well, like any good salesman, I would say you can contact me any way you want. You can call me, you can text me, email me, but the best way to initially get in contact with me is probably through LinkedIn.
Okay, and full disclosure, that's how I met Matt Gregory. So, and we will put, if you want to connect with Matt, finish listening to this podcast, and we're going to put his LinkedIn and all his other social media in the show notes. So if you want to connect with Matt, finish listening to the podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link. And Matt, this has been such a great conversation. Would you put your hand over your heart and promise me that you'll come back and we'll have another conversation about making new people really productive?
Absolutely. It'd be my honor. Thanks for having me.
Okay, wonderful. So to our audience, thank you for listening. You've been listening to Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders with my very special guest, Matt Gregory, who is the Executive Managing Director at NAI Ohio Equities. And if you found value in listening to today's episode, please think about one business owner, one entrepreneur, one president, sales leader, CEO, somebody that you know that you think might also find value in listening to this podcast. And please do share the link with them. And until we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.